I am in Oppenheim on the western bank of the Rhine, roughly 15 kilometers south of Mainz. This behind me is the Katharinenkirche, St. Catherine's Church, and in its churchyard there's the largest ossuary in all of Germany. It looks pretty unspectacular from the outside. It's actually not more than a chapel, the Michaelskapelle, St. Michael's Chapel, but it hosts the bones of 20,000 people. They are not marked with their names, they are in no particular order, without any decoration, just a pile of bones behind a grill door. You will find a few of these ossuaries in Germany, mostly in Catholic regions, and here's the story. Christians wanted to be buried in hallowed ground, and for centuries this meant as close to the church as possible. When you were rich or important, or let's say a king, you had good chances to be buried inside the church, or the others were buried in the churchyard. The ancient Roman tradition, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. In the Roman Republic, it was forbidden by law to bury the dead inside the city, so they buried them just outside the walls, and as soon as you left the Roman city, you had long lines of gravestones along the roads. The Via Appia is a famous example. So after the Christianization of Europe, burying the dead on a field or beside a road outside the city was considered heathenish. But of course, space in a churchyard is limited. At some point it will be full. But there was another thing. Christians believe in the resurrection of the flesh on Judgment Day. This is a central Christian belief. When Judgment Day comes, the second coming of Christ, the graves will open, the dead will rise, body and soul will be united again, every single person that ever lived will be judged and will go to heaven or hell, and that's the end of all history. But what this means for burial rites is this. If the body shall resurrect, there has to be some part of the body left on Judgment Day. Otherwise, no resurrection for you. Something that is not there cannot resurrect. As a consequence, this means no cremation. Cremations could have solved the space problem on medieval burial grounds fairly easily, but when you have to choose taking up a bit more space in the churchyard or eternal damnation, the choice is clear. In fact, cremations are a relatively new development. In Germany, the first cremation in modern times was in 1874, and the Pope lifted the ban on cremation only in 1963. So people in Oppenheim had to solve these two problems. They had to place the remains of the deceased close to the church, and they had to preserve some part of their body. What did they do? They buried their dead in the usual way, and after some time, 10 or 20 years, they dug them up again, placed the bones here in the ossuary, and had some free space for new burials. Between 1400 and 1750, this was common practice here in Oppenheim. By the late 18th century, people realized that placing dead bodies in inhabited areas was not a good idea, hygienically speaking. Cemeteries became common, and this practice was discontinued. And today, when I look at this pile of bones and skulls with that knowledge in mind, I cannot help thinking that on Judgment Day there certainly will be a bit of confusion. So I think you got my pelvis there. No, I'm absolutely sure that this is my pelvis. You can have that shin if you want, that's not mine. All right, the shin and 2 ribs in exchange for the pelvis. Deal. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out my new channel. There's more on places in Germany and on German accents. You can subscribe by clicking on my face. And if you like my work, you can support me on Patreon. There's a link in the description.